too, depending on what you have. Especially if you have Comcast or Xfinity, I would go with the Google one just to make sure that they're not bloating the numbers exponentially.
Yeah, and I thought it was because we were a Comcast subscriber, but we're not anymore. We've got the city of Anacortes has got our fiber going there, and frankly, our websites are on a different internet service provider, so we're not affected by that. But anyway,
It'd be interesting to know how one works versus the other.
Why would that be? If anybody's got a specific answer to that, put it in the comments.
Yeah, we'd love to know.
And boy, we've got a few new here. We've got Lumine. Let me know if I've got that pronounced right. And also Bev Brooks. Welcome to the hood. Good to see you again. And Lumine says the slice does not exist. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad you don't see the slice on your end. When we were on the lower, there's a little, our green screen, if we don't zoom in, gets cut off somewhere along the way, and you can actually see a piece of our room, but you can't right now. So we're good.
Oh.
This office we're in is actually only about, I think it's about maybe 12 feet from front to back and about 13 feet from side to side, and the back wall is painted completely green, and sometimes if we don't get it zoomed in just right, it hits we got a piece of the wall on either side which are not green screen.
Yeah, that would do it.
Okay, so what else you got?
Well,
is that it for the Wi-Fi?
I think so, unless there's anything else that you can think of that people commonly deal with on Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi extenders, you talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, no, we haven't touched on that. So I guess
good.
If somebody does do a speed test and it is like 3 to 4 megabytes, if they're gone upstairs and it's just really poor.
Okay.
A Wi-Fi extender might actually really help you out with that, because what a Wi-Fi extender's purpose is you'll plug it in so that it's kind of close enough to the router in order to echo the signal and boost it. Some people may call it Wi-Fi boosters, other people call it Wi-Fi extenders. It just depends.
Right. Yeah, they're basically typically a small rectangular device that have a plug built into them. You can just plug them into a wall socket. So let's say you've got your Wi-Fi transmitter in the middle of the house downstairs. It's a kind of a typical place for people. Although some people have it in their utility room and it's completely hidden away, so that's another story.
Yeah.
But wherever it is, you're far enough away from it to where your signal strength goes down and down and down, and by the time you get to the other side of the house, you can't even use it at all, or perhaps. Or your children are upstairs in another bedroom trying to do something. They're always complaining to you. So you get one of these, and we sell them here. You can pick them up online. You plug them in, and the goal there is the halfway point.
Yes.
So to be clear about that, wherever the farthest point is that you're experiencing your struggle, you get this extender. Don't put it where you're struggling. Don't put it at where the internet is the best, right where the router is, because it's not going to be able to get to you either. You've got to find out wherever the halfway point is. You plug it in as close to that halfway point as possible, and you won't always have perfection there, but you do the best you can. And what it's going to do, it's going to grab that signal from the base wireless transmitter and retransmit it to wherever you are. Now you'll have a loss in bandwidth numbers. So you see where I was 200 or 400, depending on who you ask, megabytes per second a few minutes ago. If you would have put that booster in the middle, and by the way, they're typically less than $40. They're not very expensive items. Then the speed that you get at the other side of the house is probably going to be about half the speed of what the base station was transmitting. Mm-hmm. But based on what we were talking about a little bit ago, if it only takes 20 megabytes per second to get the job done, don't worry about the half a speed. Now you've got internet where you had none before.
Yeah, oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Another thing too is if you have Ethernet wired throughout your house, you might also be able to, if you really need that high-speed network, you can also plug in people use another router.
Something line. What do they call those things?
Oh, you're talking about the power line?
Oh, I thought that's what you were talking about.
No, I was just saying if somebody has Ethernet already installed, that they have ports in their house that they can use. Ethernet is wired internet. So you can plug in your router box into the wall Ethernet outlet and make it so Ethernet is all over your house. So you just have to plug in a device into the wall, or you can plug in a device that echoes more Wi-Fi signal. That will be the fastest.
I'm a little confused about what you're talking about there.
Sure.
So you weren't talking about the power line device?
No. So,
okay.
I guess in your case, in this building, I don't think we have Ethernet ports on the wall.
It's an old building, got none.
But some people do have that, where somebody at some point installed Ethernet jacks in the wall.
I see. If they're already in the wall.
Yep.
And you should look for those. Yeah. Find out if you've got a newer enough home. They do put Ethernet ports throughout the home, and you can plug in. You can run one from your router, which might be in the not in the bathroom. Don't put one there.
Don't put your router in the bathroom.
in the laundry room. I've seen them there.
Yeah.
But wherever it is, there's probably no Ethernet ports in the laundry room though. But wherever it is, if you can find an Ethernet port to run from your router into that one that's near the router somewhere, and that'll feed the rest of the house into Ethernet ports in the event that you have that. But something else we were talking about is power line devices. And so instead of wireless boosters, which we talked about a minute, where you lose half your power, a power line device, you run an Ethernet cable into, again, these power line devices, they, typically that big, they're very small, they plug directly into the wall. But instead of using wireless, in this case, you want the power line device to be very close to your router. Plug it into a wall and run a cable between it and your router, okay? And the router will feed that power line device the internet. And here's the cool part, is the electricity the wiring in your home becomes Ethernet cable. So it feeds that internet through the plug into your house, and your whole house, all the wiring in your house becomes a conduit for internet. And so these power line devices come with a second device. You plug that into, let's see, the other side of the house somewhere, next to your bed and your end table and your lamp. You plug that in right there, and then you run a cable, another Ethernet cable, from it into your laptop or your desktop or whatever it is, and you'll experience high-speed internet at approximately the same, depending on how far away that wiring is. Ethernet cable, I think, has a transmission range of about 300 feet maximum without having to further boost it. So that might come into play. But you will experience much higher speed internet than you would with a Wi-Fi transmitter.
Yeah, and I have seen some situations where, be cautious if you're buying that, and make sure you have a return policy, because in some people's houses, they might have multiple circuits, or their electricity wiring may not be as good as they thought it was, so it might actually cause some hiccups.
Especially older houses. Yeah, you've got a fuse panel, a circuit breaker box somewhere, and if transmission lines don't connect from downstairs to upstairs, then you may not, but you'll have to experiment with that.
But if it works great.
And again, not expensive devices. You can buy probably cheap ones for $50, or you can buy higher end ones for $100. I don't know if one's better than the other, but they're not very expensive.
Yeah, definitely look at the reviews, I'd say, and then go based on that. But there's a ton of devices out there that do both of those things.
Right, and you can even do both. You can have a power line device that runs Ethernet upstairs, and then you can put a Wi-Fi. Well, the Wi-Fi repeater wouldn't be able to go onto it, but some of those Wi-Fi repeaters have an Ethernet port in the bottom of them. So then you can run one out of your power line device into one of your Wi-Fi repeaters, and you'll effectively have put Wi-Fi, a new transmission point in your home by using those two devices.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it too in some cases, for sure.
Wow, I just impressed myself with that one.
We do have a question, it looks like. May I ask if it is a good idea to use a router provided by the ISP?
And this is from Off-World.
All right.
And at YouTube. Go ahead.
Sure.
You can take the floor.
All right. So, all of these ISPs, they typically charge you some sort of fee a month to rent their device. And a lot of times, if you purchase a router and set it up yourself and give them a call and make sure it's activated and working, and I think by router, you're probably meaning a modem router combo. A lot of people do actually buy their own modem router And then that way they don't have to rent out and pay. I mean, I think it's typically $20 a month is what I've heard most people pay for those sort of things. Depends on your internet service provider. But I'd say if you can get a router for $100 or something that would be able to handle everything you need, it makes sense to go with that upgrade and just have your own and go through the process of calling them if need be and making sure it can be activated. The only thing is whoever you're going through, you have to make sure the modem that you're purchasing is actually compatible with your internet service provider. Xfinity's a big one for this. You can buy modem router combos that aren't compatible and they won't be able to help you. So you have to be careful on that and make sure it's compatible with your internet service provider before you go out and purchase it.
Right. And I have some thoughts on that as well. If you're a business, if you're a home, go out and buy a new one, save the $10 a month or whatever it is they're charging you, or the $15 a month, and that's great. It works well. Like she said, verify in advance. If you have Xfinity or you have Ziply or you have your city or whoever it is that's supplying your internet, because some of them are going to be DSL, some of them are going to be fiber, some of them are going to be Ethernet cable, not cable, I mean cable. Can't think of the name of the damn cable, but it's twisted pair, whatever. So they're going to be different types of coaxial. Thank you. It's been so long since I've used the word coaxial, it's not off the brain. So coaxial, DSL, it's not telephones anymore. Those are pretty much, well, the DSL is telephone line based. By the way, for those that don't know, DSL is based on the telephone line copper cables that have been around forever. And the coaxial was laid underground many, many years ago. And no matter who you're using, those are the big three, and you need to make sure your equipment, and some of them are compatible with all of them or a couple of them or whatever, but you just need to make sure. Now, if you're a business, it's a different ball game, though. The same thing applies. You can buy one of their routers, and spare the expense. But if your internet goes down and you're a business and it's mission critical and you pick up the phone and you call your local internet service provider and say, my internet is down and your equipment is purchased from a third party, all they've got to do is say everything's fine on our end, and now you don't have anything else to talk about. You've literally either got to figure it out yourself or you've got to hire somebody like her to come over and resolve the problem, figure out exactly what's wrong, and they may tell you it's your device, or they may tell you no, it's your internet service provider, but it's going to cost you a lot of money, and all of a sudden the $10 or $15 a month that you're saving, if that happens a couple times a year, it's not a bargain anymore.
Yeah.
So you've got to consider that support issue, and for that reason, as a business, I never use my own router modem, because I want to be absolutely sure when I pick up the phone, when my internet's down, and I call my internet service provider, that they have no wiggle room.
That's true.
It's like
Good point.
It's your equipment, it's your service. Figure it out, and it lights a fire under them, and they've got to get it dealt with.
That is a very good point. And for some home users, that might be of value too. Yeah. If you're not comfortable going into your router settings or knowing how to factory reset your router if need be, or work with those sort of things, then renting it, if you do want the ability to call your internet service provider and get some real support, that is actually a very big value for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and so Offworld says their router has been customized by the internet service provider, which a lot of them do. They'll buy a Netgear, or they'll get whoever's router, and then they'll put their own software in there. And the default gateway blocked, and their own website for a login to the router. I've been blocked off from certain things. I'm a little uncertain about a little bit of that. The default gateway blocked their own local website.
I think I know what they're talking about. Okay. So when you look at your default gateway number, that's like the IP address of the router.
Right.
So you can actually type in that number, the default gateway number, in your browser to access the management portal.
Yeah.
The management portal allows you to work with more advanced settings of your router. And in this case, Offworld is saying that it's blocked and their own local website has, I'm guessing what has happened here is you don't have the login to this website. I'm wondering
I have experienced that with my own brother, actually,
Yeah.
where they have their internet service provider put in their own software, and I wanted to like open a port to create some functionality in his home, and I couldn't open those ports because he wasn't a business class. So they actually, and this was Spectrum Internet in Florida, they actually wouldn't let me do port forwarding to certain ports that would be common for website hosting and things like that.
Really?
So because they've learned that these things are typical of a business environment, and so they say you have to upgrade to business class service to get him, even though it was in his home. And he literally had to. So my recommendation to him was, in fact, exactly that. It's like they're providing internet, they're holding you hostage with their router policies.
Yeah.
Use a different router, use a different modem router combination. And I sent him in the mail a different router modem, and actually a different router. I take that back. The modem is fine. It's just providing internet. But I sent him one of our own routers, and then we told the internet service provider to open everything. Do not block any ports coming to the house. They have a specific name for that, pass-through device, a pass-through functionality. And then you control it all with the router, and you stay on top of that. So if that's your problem off-world, yes, you need to order your own router, use the modem that they've supplied, turn off router functionality in the modem that they have, or tell them to turn it off, and then you control it with your, and they'll all do that. They'll all allow you to do that. They'll say, okay, you don't want us to route? No, we'll turn that off, you use yours, and then but then obviously comes the responsibility of knowing how to configure those things. But
one more thing to clarify, actually, just in case. You do actually have a default administrator and password for all of your routers.
Right.
I'm wondering, have you looked that up for your model yet and seen if that could be the problem? Because that is something where if you load up your default gateway right out of the box, type in those numbers, it'll ask you what the username and password is.
Right.
If you don't know to look up, say if you had a Netgear device and certain model number, you type in what's the default username and password for my Netgear, insert model number here, it'll come up with some results you can try. Typically admin and password are some pretty common ones. It just depends on your model. And then it tells you once you put that in, if that's what was the default, it'll ask you to change that password. So then you can set it to whatever you'd like.
I'd like to help our users get themselves in trouble, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and bring up a DOS prompt. Can you do CMD? Okay, or a command prompt, I should say. DOS is long ago. What's that keystroke for magnification?
Windows key plus.
Windows plus. In a Windows environment, that zooms things over. And can you lower us?
Absolutely.
Okay. And we're going to type in the word ipconfig. Whoa. Okay, so I've got 4 monitors and something about the magnification.
Oh, if I type in here.
Can you get an O? Oh, no, that's a magnification fail. So every time she types a character, the screen just disappears. Okay, press enter and I'll bring it over. Okay, so she just typed in ipconfig. You're gonna have to take my word for that. ipconfg. And if you'll excuse that little slice right there, it's starting to bother me, so I'm going to deal with that.
Yeah, I do see
you
that.
See that?
I do see that.
Oh, now because hold on. There we go. Move that camera just a slice to the side. All right, got it. Okay, so we typed in ipconfig, and in doing so, it tells us, I just learned something myself. My default gateway has switched to .10.1. The rest of the network's on .9.1. I've got all kinds of routers and switches and everything else going around me here, but .10.1 is actually not the gateway that I thought I was going to get, but that's okay. When you're at home, can you turn off that magnification?
Yes, I can. There we go.
All right. So now that I know that my gateway is .10.1, and you can do this at home as an exercise, and then we're going to open up a browser. Okay, pick a browser. We'll go with that. Oh, that's actually my project I'm working on. Okay, and so I'd like you to type in 192.168.10.1, which was the default gateway. Whoa.
I'm trying to show people.
Oh boy.
There we go.
Yeah, but can you hit enter?
No, I'll zoom back out just so people see what I'm doing. Then you hit enter.
All right. So it's gone to a website that says it's not private. Bad.
It was working great the other day.
We're going to go to advanced, and so I'm going to go to advanced, and then I'm going to go to proceed.
Which is that little tiny text there when you click advanced.
Now you can zoom in.
All right.
Oh wait, we got to get rid of my password drop. There we go. My username and information is. Oh, that's how you can't get to it from home anyway. It's not public. Okay, go ahead and expand it. My credentials were showing up on the login.
Have some credentials.
Yeah, just log into my router. All right. So what this has brought up is the login to my router at my business. Now, at home, you're going to have your own login to your router. It might be Netgear. It might be some other thing. We're using an Edge router. And I'm not going to log in right now, but if you do, then you have the ability to completely bring down your internet and cause your own problems, in which case you'd have to reset the router and start over. But if you
be careful.
But you don't have to do that. You can log in and just take a poke around. Now, all routers, as she mentioned, have a default username and password. And sometimes the internet service provider provides a default username and password. And like for Comcast, I know it's cusadmin, CUSADMIN is for everybody. That's their default username. And a lot of times that information is on the bottom of their modem or their router. You'll find it as a username and password. Sometimes you have to call your internet service provider for them. But then you can log in and you can see all the things that are actually happening within your network from their point of view.
Yeah, no, it's a really good tool if you're having some difficulty or if you want to open a port for any reason that you're working on. Just be cautious and know that without good security, if you open all of the ports on your router, that's not a good idea.
You can turn off that.
Let's see. All right.
And bring the background is okay. Wow, that was a wild ride on the magnification.
Yep. I think it's because of the multiple monitors.
Can you bring us up? I'm sorry, I didn't get my phone to so that I could help you. And oh, now one of us has to move a little bit. It's me. Okay. All right. Okay. There we go. All right, got it. All right. Okay, so that's what a gateway is. When you hear people talk about gateway, figure out what your default gateway number is, and you can check in on all of that.
That is, or also your router IP address, and that's how you would go about that process.
We got 10 minutes to kill.
We got 10 minutes.
All right.
All right. Well, let's see here.
We don't have to kill it. I mean, we get 10 minutes. We've been on for 45, 50 minutes.
That's true.
Want to call it?
We could call it and then talk about some other things next time.
Yeah, because we get just enough time left to we're getting into something else would take us beyond that.
That's true, yeah.
But thank you very much for watching. We're grateful that you showed up, and we enjoy doing these, and hopefully you enjoy the benefit. And don't forget, wherever you are, if you're watching this, you can get tech support from us remotely. Just call the store at the number that you see right up there, and we'll be able to help you.
All right. Well, take care, and we'll see you next Saturday at